My 14-year-old internet boyfriend became my stalker. I think I should start this off by saying I'm not a great storyteller, so sorry about that in advance. Also, I'm from the UK. He lived in one country, me in another, in Britain. I'd never met him until this incident. So I met Tom through this app called Geeking. I won't lie, that place is a breeding ground for paedophiles, and just in general awful human beings. And of course, 13-year-old me was using the app daily. I started talking to him about his mental health issues and the classic dynamic of a young girl who just wants to help this older boy that she has a crush on, so then becomes his therapist. What I learned over the years of being his emotional support victim, Tom was 2 years older than me, had an abusive upbringing with many mental health issues. Because of that, he struggled with it. Our heavily toxic, verbally abusive relationship was very on and off for 2 years, so I put an end to it in the summer of 2019 after he threatened to R-word me. Blocked him on everything and moved on with my life. Winter of 2019, I'm working in a cafe, still living in the deep country with my parents, hardly posting on social media, when I get a message. It's from an unknown Instagram account. I really wish I had screenshotted the first message, but it pretty much went like this. Hey, it's Tom. We haven't spoken in a while, but I'm going to a concert this weekend in insert city nearest me, and I was thinking about you. I texted back just to be nice, just saying I'm doing well, but ended it with I'd rather not stay friends. He says he's comfortable with this and the conversation ends. It's 2 days after, I'm working my 5-hour shift in the cafe. I come in through the back door like I always do, and see a pile of what I think are old clothes at the edge of the window. I don't think anything of it, do my shift and grab my stuff and leave to walk out the door. I walk down the street still feeling completely safe until I'm grabbed by my bag and this 6'2", bearing in mind I'm only 5'3" at the time, man who I vaguely recognise is smiling down at me. He says my name and another huge wave of fear kicks in as I immediately recognise his voice. It's Tom. I don't give him the time of day to speak. I just shook him off and started power walking down the street towards a shop where I knew my dad was. Looking back, I kind of think I should have ran straight back to work, but as a 16-year-old who has never been in a confrontational, terrifying situation before, I just ran straight to a parent. Tom follows me, shouting my name. I managed to lose him and reach my dad. After that, I got a message from the Instagram account saying he was sorry, but he was in love with me and needed to have me, which still to this day makes me sick to think about. He also mentioned that he thought it was romantic he travelled all this way, him being at the bottom of the country and me at the top of mine. I blocked that account and later made a new one. I also contacted my work about it. That's where my boss checked the security cameras outside and told me that he had been sitting there since 8 a.m. I started work at 10 a.m. He was that pile of clothes. I blamed myself for a really long time and shrugged it off as not that much of a big deal. However, the more he got in contact with me after, the more petrified I felt. I'm now in therapy. I have received texts from him with messages that he's changed, he's sorry, he's a Christian now. And the latest one is that he has a terminal illness and needs me to see him one last time. Since changing my number and email, I've not heard anything from him. I've been told by others that going to the police might make me feel less safe as they can't do anything. Now it's all over the internet. I am back to feeling safe now, which is great, but to Tom, let's never meet again. I waved at a man, and now I think he wants to hurt me. Every day I walk home from school with my friend because she only lives a little bit away from me, so our routes line up. At the start of the school year, we noticed there was a man usually looking at us from his bedroom window while we were walking home from school. Found it a little weird, but ultimately didn't think of it much. A few months ago, after the heat of the summer died down a bit, he started sitting out on his porch when we were walking by. Usually he would just smile at us. Sometimes I smiled back, but I usually just ignored him. One day, as I was walking by his house, he waved to me from where he was sitting. I stopped and waved back at him and told him to have a nice afternoon as I walked past. It felt a little weird because he didn't reply, but eventually I forgot about the whole thing. Once when my mother was at work and I was home alone, I noticed him walking past my house several times through the window. I felt very creeped out and uncomfortable. I considered talking to my parents about it just in case, but I ultimately convinced myself he wasn't doing anything, so it really didn't matter. Yesterday I walked home from school alone because I stayed behind with some other kids outside the school for a few hours since we had art club that day and I didn't want to walk home, just to have to come back fairly soon after. I had just bought myself a nice new pair of wired headphones a few weeks ago with money I'd been saving up. I was playing them over one ear as I was walking home. On the way home, there is a public lot with a stable on it that I like to cut through to get into my yard as quick as I can rather than walking around the entire property. Sometimes people like to hang around it to meet up, but there wasn't anyone there that I could see. As I rounded the corner on the stables, someone grabbed the back of my t-shirt. From the way they were grabbing it, I could see part of their hand. I jerked forward and they grabbed the top part of my headphones. The wire was at the bottom part of the neck, and it got stuck for a moment, and I remember feeling like I couldn't get away if something very bad was going to happen. The wire eventually snapped and I took off running as fast as I could, screaming. They let go of my shirt and I hopped the half-little fence to our property, and I ran as fast as I could out onto the sidewalk in front of my house because I was worried that it would take too long to unlock the door if they were following me. By the time I actually got to the sidewalk point, I was crying. I felt like I was going to collapse because I was just so scared. When I looked over my shoulder, I couldn't see anyone, but I kept running until I reached my friend's house in case whoever was there was still around when I got back. When I got there, I was in tears and it took a bit to explain the complete situation because they couldn't understand me. I tried calling my mother, but she wouldn't pick up the phone. My friend's mum called the police and they came to check things out. There was nobody at the stables and they told me that it was most likely some kids trying to mess around, but they escorted me home to where my mother was waiting for me anyway. I didn't tell them about the old man because I was worried they would think I was crazy, considering he hadn't actually done anything. But there's something in my mind that keeps telling me that he was the one who grabbed me at the stables. When I was walking home from school today, I brought a screwdriver with me in case I needed to defend myself. I also had my friend with me. My mother offered to pick me up from school, but I was worried that if I had shown how the encounter had affected me, then it would make things worse. I had also avoided the stables, and my friend made sure I made it to the door. The guy wasn't on his porch today, and I'm not fully sure if it was him or not. I feel terrible that my headphones broke, but I can't help but wonder what would have happened if they didn't. I will update if anything else happens. Update. My stalker still hasn't given up, and it's been over a month since this nightmare first started. The man who has been watching me as I come home from school has started walking back and forth to and from the sidewalk in front of my house again. He has done this 3 times since my last post, and every time I've seen it, I've been home alone. I've called my mother to let her know every time he's been around, and we have contacted the police to tell them that he keeps coming by our house, but they haven't been able to do anything except record it, since he's never actually stepped foot onto our property. Until recently. Starting this week, I started noticing tapping and scratching sounds from downstairs, starting as soon as it becomes dark. It's been worrying me a great deal, but I've been too scared to look outside until recently because my dogs weren't barking, and they always do if someone strange is outside. When I finally got the courage to look out the window, I saw a person hunched over a few feet from the entrance to our house. I couldn't see any of their facial features because they were wearing a large hoodie and keeping their face down. It looked like they were scraping something across the side of the house. Immediately I dialed the police and hid somewhere just in case they wanted to break in. As soon as the police arrived though, that person ran off and was not pursued. I spoke with the police when they started to check things out, but again nothing could be done as there wasn't any proof that anything had even happened at all besides them seeing him run away. They said that they'd keep an eye out in the future, but at the very most it was only trespassing. I brought up the fact that I was attacked not long ago by some strange man and that I thought they were the same person, but I was once again brushed off. The police said it was possible, but without any actual evidence that they were the same person, nothing could be done, since I couldn't accurately recognise the person outside my window and I wasn't seriously hurt. I don't know what kind of evidence is needed to do something about someone stalking a minor who is home alone, but apparently I didn't have it. This morning, a small brown package was left on the doorstep, and in it were pieces of electronic parts that I did not recognise, and plastic shards with the crumpled up newspaper at the bottom, and a note that said sorry with a frowny face at the top. My mother notified the police, and again, they said they'd keep an eye out for anything suspicious. I feel like they're not doing anything, and that they won't do anything until I'm seriously hurt, or even worse. I took some advice from the previous comments, and now I keep glitter spray with me when I walk home from school, along with my screwdriver and a knife in my bedroom, just in case someone breaks in, but I can't do anything else. And I'm not at all confident that I could win a fight against a fully grown man. I'm worried about what will happen in the future. I don't feel safe in my home, even when the doors are locked. I check every possible place someone could be waiting for me before settling down, but I don't think it's enough. More than anything, I just want him to leave me alone. During the summer of 2017, I was working at a pharmacy. I'd already been there for 4 years. A new staff pharmacist around my age, about 28 at the time, was hired. He seemed a bit odd, but I was nice to him because everyone else was rude to him immediately and I felt bad. He asked me way too many questions. Some I answered, and others crossed boundaries, like questions about ex-boyfriends and things. Fast forward a month and he said he was moving. He lived on the east side of my city and he said that he was moving to the west side, where I live. He said that he actually found a house near the intersection of where I live. I asked him what street and he wouldn't tell me. He also said that the owner will live there for a few months, so I forgot about it. Anyway, fast forward a few months later and my mum and dad told me that they met our new neighbour. Our house is one house away from the intersecting street and this house is on the intersecting street, so we are one house away but the backyards connect. My mum said he seemed like a really nice young guy. The next time I worked with him, I asked him if it was him, and he said no. I let it go for a little bit. Then another time he started asking me questions, describing my backyard, and asking me if my street name started with the letter that it did. So he admitted it was him. I asked him how he knew it was my house. He said he saw me in the backyard. He decided not to say anything to me. The next few months were weird. I was still friendly with him as a co-worker, but he crossed some boundaries. He knew my birthday was coming up. My birthday and address are in the pharmacy database, and my brother was asking for ideas on what to get me. I wanted a certain phone case, so I was browsing on my phone to send my brother the link to the one I wanted. He would always look over my shoulder when I was on my phone. He saw the type of phone case, and he got me a phone case and a $150 preloaded Visa gift card. I told him in a very professional manner that I felt the gift was inappropriate and probably against company policy. I walked over to his mailbox while he was at work to return it. He kept putting it back in my mailbox with messages of me begging to accept it because I make him so happy. I ended up just giving it away. Not much longer after that, I took my co-worker, not him, a female, to the zoo. I had some of it on my Snapchat story. He kept messaging me on Snapchat asking questions about it and it was bothering me, so I just blocked him. After that, he called my mum. He got her number from when they first met and told her that he needed to talk to her. He told her he needed to come over and talk to her. So she invited him into our house and they talked. I was very alarmed by all of this, but she thought it was quite endearing. I told him once again at work that he had crossed boundaries. He said that he does everything that he does because he cares about me. He didn't understand where I was coming from at all. Those were the things that most stand out that he has done. A lot of pestering about, tell me who your boyfriend is, and, trying to look at pictures on my phone to figure it out, or going through co-workers' phones and reading their conversations with me, even impersonating them while I was not at work to get info. One time, he even cornered me at work and wouldn't let me leave until I told him what characteristics I look for in a guy. He was also mad at me when I got a birth control prescription filled, even though it was being used to correct hormonal problems from another birth control. I just started being mean to him at work because I couldn't take it anymore. He then told me I was treating him that way because he's a nice guy who cares about me and that I am looking for a jerk. It became a very hostile work environment, and I left about 2 months ago. This is a side note. Other co-workers and neighbours hate him because he likes to start confrontations. He also plays he said, she said with people just for entertainment. The neighbours have called the police on him and they think he's crazy. I haven't heard anything at all from him since leaving, but I saw a former co-worker last week at a get-together and she said that he is still trying to get her to tell him where I work now. He told her that he sees me getting into my car every morning, so he knows I have a job. I told my mum about this, but she didn't take it seriously. She never believed I was in danger. I would just like to get an outside perspective. When I come home late, I run to the door, and if no one is home, I will wait to take a shower. I'm still scared. This is just a quick update from a post I made a few years ago about a scary neighbour. Last night I looked out the window and there was multiple police cars and an ambulance. I found out later that my neighbour had married a young girl from the same country as him. She doesn't speak much English and doesn't have any family here. She's been here a few months, but he has seldom let her leave the house, even to go in the backyard. My other neighbours managed to catch her outdoors once or twice and managed to get her phone number. She said he has cameras all over the house and outside. Last night he was beating on her and accused her of cheating, and the cops were called. After that he shut off her phone service. Last night he attacked her with a knife and my neighbours heard her screaming and they called the cops for her. She says he was trying to kill her. She was taken away by an ambulance and he was arrested. Multiple guns and knives were found in the house. I'm going to cut this post short because I'm typing on a tablet with no keyboard and this is getting cumbersome, but that's just the update for you.